If there's anybody who knows anything about cigars, it's this man right here. You knew about a shitload of cigars.
You know, making cigars is an art, similar to like people who make scotches or wines.
Did you know that almost 80% of the people that develop lung cancer never smoked in their life?
What sparked your love and passion for cigar?
This cigar here that I'm smoking right now, the Liga F, is probably closer to $27, $28.
The cigarette, if you hold it at this point, if you don't smoke on it, it would burn on its own, so you're not going to burn down your house. These cigarettes back 100 years ago weren't this addictive.
When I smoke a cigar, I always try to get the flavor notes that come from it.
Welcome everybody to the new the new DC Talks podcast. It's newer because we're in a different environment today. Today we're in my backyard or side yard, I guess you would call it. Yeah, yes. We're in Casa Chinelli today for the DC Talks podcast.
Yes, sir.
Today we thought it'd be, because Father's Day is coming up, we thought we'd do something a little bit different. Owen and I I posted the idea to Owen, and then so we thought we'd bring in my good friend Paolo Pergola. Pergola. I always say Pergola. I always say Pergola, but it's spelled like Pergola.
It's all good.
And the reason why we want to bring in Paolo is that it's coming close to Father's Day, and we always get questions like, Dave, like, what kind of cigar should I buy my significant other? What do I get by my dad? Like, and they want to know those kind of situations, like, those questions, like, where do I buy cigars? What kind of cigar should I get? How do I know I'm not getting hosed? What am I looking for? So I thought, well, why don't we do a podcast on that? You know, Paulo we do a Father's Day event. We started 5-6 years ago doing that long, and we started during COVID. And Paulo is the reason why I smoke cigars. He's the one that taught me everything about cigars. And
I'm a bad influence.
So Paulo we had started like when I was 17, I guess, maybe 30 years ago. We started in high school. We started smoking cigars, and you knew everything about cigars. And since that time, so I met Paulo a long time ago at St. Mike's, and he was in the rink attendant, and he's transitioned from there. You started working at Holy Smokes at Loblaws, and now you work for the House of Horvath, and you sell cigars.
So it's a cigar distributor, yes.
Yeah. So if there's anybody who knows anything about cigars, it's this man right here. You knew about a shitload of cigars before we even started selling cigars, and now that has just increased since you've been there. So I thought, what better way of, in case anybody has questions, or even yourself,
I have a lot of questions to cigars, yeah.
So what I do every year is, like, for my clients, we do it at the house here. We bring people in, and Paulo talks about the cigars. But, you know, usually it's a different setting, and if people don't always listen, we only do about 15 minutes. Here, I thought it's a good setting that people can always relate back to. If your significant other is looking for cigars, you want to know where to start, this is why we brought Paulo. And so, Paulo, welcome to Casa Chinelli.
Thank you. And welcome to the DC Talks podcast with David Chinelli.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is episode 123. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Baby, yes.
You know, it's a great way to start the spring and the summer, and you know, hopefully everyone's smoking, enjoying the nice weather, and
it's cigar season.
Yeah. Golfing, everything, cigars. Barbecues. You don't have to. Doesn't have to be just cigars. It's almost like a social gathering that you can actually enjoy a cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm out there with the guys, like, especially when we're golfing and we got a cigar, we got drinks, we got whiskey, it's such a blessing. And the simple things in life, I take so much pride in actually having that ability to be like, hey, look at where I'm at. Look at what I'm doing. It doesn't get any better than that, Paul.
It's true.
Yeah. I don't know. There's nothing better than having a cigar on a golf course. Like, I'm not a huge golfer, but I just can't imagine golfing without a cigar. Yeah. I don't, and it's like, it's like one of my favorite cigars is the Super Freak from Alec Bradley. And I smoked 2 or 3 of those on a course.
Actually, there is a bigger cigar that was just launched
this big.
at the PCA show it was actually, the PCA show was about I'm gonna say 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
down in New Orleans. Illusion Cigars make one, and this thing, I swear to God, it looks like this big, and about, I'm gonna say, about that thick.
So if people that are listening through a podcast, what does this big mean in this diameter? So you're saying probably a couple feet big, a couple feet long?
I'm gonna say it's probably about I think it was 11 inches. And in terms of ring gauge, it's actually bigger than a golf ball, but smaller than a tennis ball.
How do you even smoke that?
I don't know. But they actually launched it at it's a PCA show in every year. It's basically a manufacturing show that cigar manufacturers go to every year.
Yeah.
And actually, you know what? It's there's members that you can go to. Some sometimes you guys should consider, people should consider going to it. It is a big show. You get a lot of cigars at the show. You get to meet all the cigar manufacturers, and the famous people like like Arturo Fuente. You get to meet Carlito, E.P. Carrillo, which is called Casa Carrillo now. You get to meet Ernesto, like all these guys. They're all there, and they actually all have a new product that they launch at the show, and they basically just mingle with retail stores, distributors, and the general public. So it's a great show to go to.
Yeah,
definitely something to consider doing if you're really passionate about cigars.
So let's change gears a little bit and say, like, okay, if somebody's looking here, they're newbies, right? Or what has changed? Like, first off, we're changing a little bit of like how cigars look. So somebody comes in, like, we have a number of cigars on display, which you're talking about in the beginning. But the one thing we did want to mention, if you're walking anywhere in Canada and if you're going to a store, you won't see bands like this anymore. And what is the reason for it? What, they have all these generic bands.
So what's happened is the Canadian government has come out with new laws, and basically all tobacco products. So that's all products. So you're talking about cigarettes, pipe tobacco, chewing tobacco, cigars. They all have to have this standard color that actually goes around the actual product. It's called some type of, I don't know if it's called commercial brown or something like that, but this is an industry standard. So you'll see this color on cigarette packs, chewing tobacco, pipe tobacco pouches, and cigars. So a cigar is sold with this, and then what happens?
So basically, guys, if those who can't see this, it's basically just a brownishy kind of greenishy kind of cover that it covers the whole band of the cigar. And the idea is what
the law states that they want to. This was placed on the cigar so that you're not advertising tobacco, and that way selling tobacco. But you got to understand, when you're in a store and you see all the cigars with a band like that, and you have to actually physically look close to read the brand on it, is very difficult to sell a cigar. Instead, if you had the original band that comes with it, and that band identifies the brand and the actual type of cigar, because different manufacturers have different types of blends that they make. So in some stores you go into, a lot of customers could tell by just looking at the band that it's a Cohiba, because it has a yellow and black label that's very distinctive, very unique, and not yellow is not an actual color that's used on bands that much. So when you walk in the store, you can identify it by just looking around and immediately recognizing the brand based on that. So that's a reason they do that, is to kind of not advertise the branding anymore, and also because of the way the law's written, there's no advertisement. You can't even give away a book of matches when you buy tobacco. It's illegal. So you have to charge like a penny.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the things when I was a kid is, do you remember how many matchbooks I used to have? We used to go to bars and stuff. I haven't seen those in a long. Yeah, I used to collect all those. Well, the idea is, again, and also what in conjunction with that was also to deter young children from smoking cigars. It was like, it's a status symbol. They were trying to prevent people from doing those kinds of things. And I don't know if it's working, honestly. And it's like, the other thing is changes on the packaging. Like, one of the things we were talking with Paolo when he came here, he's like, he wanted to put them, if you look on the cigars, we have the cigars on display, because even now, like, they don't come in the nice boxes they were. Like, it's basically cellophane. Like, and it's kind of ridiculous, because some of these cigars out, and I'll talk a little bit about this. So like the Cohibas, for example, have gone so ridiculously expensive. When I used to smoke Cohibas, they were like $30, $40 a stick. Now they're up to like $140, $150 a stick. And this is the reason why we're doing this podcast as well. We want to say alternatives. If you don't know anything about cigars, don't go into a cigar store and only want to get Cubans, because their prices have got crazy high, and I don't think you get the best bang for your dollar. Yeah.
Well, Cubans in general, they have a price increase every single year. You can't really say that about all the other different manufacturers like the Dominican, Honduras, Nicaragua. This year we had a price increase, but some of our brands didn't get a price increase. So like Toscano, it's an Italian brand cigar. It looks like a tree branch. It's hard and very like rough looking. It doesn't even look close to this, like the smooth texture.
I like those. I like the flavor ones in Italy. We went to. They're very nice.
So they didn't get a price increase this year. But Cuban cigars, every year, like year after year, they've always had a price increase to the point where it's not just the price increase. The other thing too now is with that new plain packaging that's come out, they don't come in, they used to come in boxes. Now they come in these cardboard containers. And these cardboard containers, or even say the cellophane bundle wrap, does not protect the cigar. You got to understand if that wrapper gets dinged, or they put it in a box so that it doesn't get hit, and if it gets hit, that will unravel as you're smoking it. You don't want that because it changes the taste. That wrapper leaf gives you so much flavor that people don't realize a lot of flavor comes from that wrapper. And so what happens is if that unravels, it's going to give you an unpleasant cigar. You're not going to enjoy it. Yeah. So very important.
Well, one of your customers was like, we were talking to him, and he's like, so we're talking about the Cohibas, for example, and he had a guy come in. He spent $5,000 per box, bought 2 boxes, and he literally went out with cellophane. It's almost like sacrilege, right?
Yeah.
Like when we used to buy those cigars, we used to get a nice little box. You open up, you had a nail on top. You have to like pry it open.
Yes.
Everything was pristine. It was all about presentation, and it used to look good. And you're like, so if you're spending like $5,000 to $10,000 on a box of cigars, and you get plastic wrap around it, it kind of takes away a little bit. I guess that's the idea, but it's such a kick in the nuts.
Like the Amex cards now. See how they're plastic now. Before they used to have. It's metal, and then there's a plastic, but now it's like you can't even feel the grooves of the numbers anymore. It feels like a cheap plastic card. The Amex experience was supposed to be like an actual. It feels different, right? So now she took
because it was stamped into the card.
Yeah, especially when you go to a dinner and you put your Amex card down and you hear the clank. That lets everybody know that. Also with the cigars,
I've arrived.
Exactly, right? Build me exactly. So I feel like what DC's saying with the wrapper is it definitely makes sense.
Yeah. It's very listen, there's a lot, and you know what, these master blenders have been doing this, a lot of them have been doing it their whole life. Making cigars is an art. It's not, and it's similar to like people who make scotches or wines. And you know what, the other thing too is from year to year you're not going to get the same product. It's impossible.
Exactly.
It's something that's grown.
Well, that's why I put the years on the wine bottles, because they're like, oh, that vintage was great. That year wasn't as good, of course, because you never know the conditions outside, or you never know.
It's everything from sun to rain to temperatures, right? Of course. Is a cold summer? Was it a hot summer? And there's a lot of factors, even with the tobacco leaves themselves. Like you hear how many times hurricanes. They through the Caribbean islands, if there's tons of hurricanes, they disrupt the growing seasons of that tobacco and damages to these factories. Like there's been actually the last little while there was 2 factories. There was a factory in Arturo Fuente. They had a factory that caught fire, and they lost a lot of tobacco, like bales of tobacco that was already I guess cultivated. That they had to. What happens is when they store it, it actually is stored dry, and when it goes on to the actual rolling of a cigar, they actually re-moisturize the leaves with a little bit of a mist, and it actuates it actually gets it going so that it opens it up, and then it will be able to be pliable so you can roll it into a cigar. So there was a lot of product that was lost. Like we're talking not millions, like a lot of money was lost. And about a month ago, the AJ Fernandez factory also had a big fire, but it was in the manufacturing plant too. It wasn't in the storage warehouses. So that was a little more detrimental because of it was where they actually roll the cigars. So the problem is that you actually stop the manufacturing process because of the factory floor being on fire.
Yeah. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, unless you had a question.
Yeah, other question, like
Sure.
just for context for the audience, like what sparked your love and passion for cigars? Because I mean, for you to be doing what you're doing now, something must have triggered it from the beginning. And second part is, once you realize that passion, what made you want to make it into a career?
Those are actually really good questions. So I would say I actually, when I smoked my first cigar, I noticed that
How old were you?
I was in high school, a little younger than you, a little
Older.
older than you, Dave. You're probably about, what is it, 7, 8 years older than me.
Younger than you?
I'm 7 or 8 years older than you.
Yeah, that's right.
So when I was in high school, I actually had gone to a friend's house, and his mom and dad were in Florida. So he was home with his brother, and it's like, hey man, like come over. We made a little something to eat. It was during the day. And then he pulled out a couple cigars. And what happened is I just really enjoyed smoking that cigar and the sensation of just being able to de-stress my life from, running exams, I guess. Back then I wasn't really working full time yet, but I was running exams in high school. So that was probably one of the biggest things that was on my mind. So I enjoyed that so much, and I said, hey, you know what, this is something that I think is going to stick with me. And I really enjoyed it. And then I started reading up on some of the brands out there, some of the Cuban brands, and then I ended up starting to get socially more active with some of my friends. We started smoking cigar occasionally, and then at some point,
At what point did you get your brother? So Paolo's got a twin brother. You can't tell them apart. It's hilarious. But when did you get Guy involved? Gaetano.
Oh, he was almost involved right away. Probably after about maybe 3 months when I smoked that cigar, and I told him how I really enjoyed it, and then we met up with that friend again, and we actually smoked one together, and that's where it all started. But you know what? Smoking a cigar, like for me, I know there's people out there who smoke all the time, and sometimes you want people not to know that, where you're like, hey, if I don't have time to enjoy the cigar, so I know I got an hour to smoke a cigar and I don't want to be disturbed, I can just enjoy it, and that's my time. If you don't have it, then it's not the same. Like,
You don't rush through a cigar.
You don't rush through it. You want to enjoy it. You want to actually, and you know what? The other thing too is this: a lot of people don't realize when you get a cigar, you look at it, you see how nice it looks, you smell it, make sure that it has a nice smell to it, and then what happens is when you go to light it, there is some cigar etiquette out there. You don't.
Why don't you show? So I was going to talk about these cigars, but I want you Paolo was doing this on purpose. Owen and I, and you can talk about how you got into this as a career. So Owen and I started our cigars because he wanted to talk about like the proper etiquette of smoking the cigar and how you do it and what you're supposed to do. So lead into that. So you're saying, so when you're doing, and then after that, then you can tell us how you got into this, if that's right. So it all kind of blends together.
Yes. So when you go to light a cigar, you should not put the cigar to your mouth, turn it, and put saliva.
Do not bite your cigar like you see in the car. Oh my
saliva.
God. Yeah.
When you put saliva on that cigar, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get a cutter, and you're going to put that cutter over here and cut it. Now, you're putting saliva on that cutter, and the next person using it, if he's standing next to you and you hand him a cutter, he might say, hey, you know what? I'm going to pass because you could be putting saliva on his cigar. So, it's very important. A lot of people don't think of, I didn't even think of that. But that is something that happens quite often. And people should be aware of that. The other thing is when you cut a cigar, you want to cut about 80%, and you want to make sure it's 90. You're actually 90 degrees to that cap.
So this is what Paolo's using here. That's my, it's a V cutter or a wedge cut.
Yes, it's a wedge cut.
There are different types of cutters. Like, so even I have one over here, which you can do is like more of a flat cut. There's also like a poker, which we use, which is a punch. We use that as well. But we like the V cut because if you look over here, see there's a little bit of a wedge in our cigar. what it does is it keeps the cap, and you get maximum smoke through the valley here, and that's why you get a lot of smoke. So it's a good smoke, and it keeps the integrity of the cigar.
Yes. So once you cut it, you can put it to your mouth, and I usually try to give it a little to see if it gets there's a draw on it, and it should have a nice draw. So once you establish that's good, then you have to preheat the cigar. So you want to get a torch lighter. Some people prefer matches. That's more of a classic way of doing it. But with wooden matches, you need to have long matches, and you need to make sure that you're toasting the edge, the foot of the cigar, as you would say.
My friends and I, when we smoke it, we typically light it underneath and then we roll the cigar. Does that make a difference when you're doing?
Everyone has a preference.
Okay.
Doing it that way, it's hard to see where the flame's going. Okay. Doing it this way, it's showing me exactly where the flame is going. Mm-hmm. But it is a preference, and once you get that nice toast action happening.
You see, how it's kind of blacking around there a little bit, guys. You can see how that's it's heating up the leaves as well.
So the reason you're heating up the leaves is because cigars are maintaining a 65 to 70% moisture environment. It has to have the moisture, because if it's too dry, when you burn it, you're not tasting the tobacco. You're tasting the actual carcinogens of a product that's being burned. So it's like walking into a fire in a house or a garage, and you're actually tasting that. You don't want to taste that. So once you've done that, I'm gonna actually put it to my mouth and start sucking on it.
So you burn it first, and then you start.
And notice he's turning it when you're lighting your cigar. You should be turning your cigar so you get an even burn throughout.
And then sometimes people will go like this after. They'll blow on it to see if it gets an even glow. It's sometimes hard to see in the actual daylight, but at night you'll see it very clearly.
Got you. So what are some misconceptions people get about cigars? Because
first off, he hasn't answered his question. He hasn't finished his story about how he got into cigars.
So the passion of getting into it. So what happened was, at that time I was working at St. Mike's in the arena as a Zamboni driver. And
that's where we met.
So I always had an interest, and I said to myself, I want to actually explore this interest. How can I get into the cigar business? Like how? What do I need to do? So I started looking at working in a cigar store. And what happened was I have a friend that's close to me that his name's Wayne. He ended up starting with Loblaws. He was the first Holy Smoke store, and it's through Loblaws, Fortino's. It's a chain of cigar stores that they used to have. So he was the first store to open up at Queens Quay and Jarvis for Loblaws. When that Loblaws opened up, he ended up being the cigar manager there at the Holy Smokes. So I said, I want to see if I really have an interest for this, because you know what? I'm not sure. So I started working there part-time, one night a week. After work, full-time at St. Mike's, I would go there, work one night, and I would just see, is this something that would be interesting to me, where I would, think about leaving my career in the arena business to do this. So I started doing that. So I ended up doing it for about 6 months to 8 months. And I said to myself, you know what? I think I'd rather do this. And because of my interest and passion on cigars, I ended up doing that. And then what happened was an opportunity came where they opened another Holy Smoke store. And it was in Oshawa. So I went there. And I worked at that store for about 2.5 years. And then Oshawa was kind of far. So I said, let's try and find something in Toronto. So I ended up going to another store that was closer in Toronto, Yonge and Empress. And after that, I did that for about 10 years. And then an opportunity came where I could work as a cigar salesman for a distributor. Mm-hmm. And I ended up doing that. So that's where it went. Yeah. So what's the other question now? Go ahead.
No, that's a great story. To come back to that, is it like a very lucrative business, like being the in that side of things, or
I'm a salary employee, so I'm not. It's not like my business. I don't own it. You gotta understand, in the tobacco business, there's a lot of tobacco tax money that's collected.
Yeah.
So people think that you're gonna make millions doing this.
Yeah.
You have to be a very big distributor of a lot of good brands.
Mm-hmm.
You can make money, but you're not. As a sales rep, I'm not making millions doing this. Yeah. You guys are probably making more than I am in the real estate business than I am. But anyways,
all right, switching topics. So. Yeah, I wanted to introduce people to Paolo, because Paolo wanted to bring alternative cigars. So again, we do a cigar thing here. So I thought, Paul, what's a good opportunity for us to introduce some cigars that people may not break the bank and are amazing. They're still good. Like, I'm really enjoying this, and the cigar that that especially for people that may want to everyday smoke, this is a good cigar to have. But also, it's like if you bought a bundle for that, somebody they're gonna know it's a good cigar. Listen, don't get me wrong. You can get. Why pay $140 for one cigar, for a Cohiba, which is, depending on what you get nowadays, sometimes they're not even that good, as opposed to getting 5-10 cigars, something for another one. So bring us a little bit through what the selection you brought here and what people can look and what to expect.
So these cigars, I got 4 different cigars that I brought. We're actually smoking, I'm smoking the Casa Magna Liga F, which in Spanish, Liga F stands for the strong line. It's a stronger cigar compared to the regular Casa Magna Colorado line. It has stronger leaves inside of it.
Yeah.
So when you look at a cigar, there's 3 components to it. There's 3 parts. There's the wrapper leaf, then there's a binder leaf, which holds the filler leaves. So when you make a cigar, it actually goes through 2 different rollers. There's one roller that will take filler leaves, and what they'll do is there's 2 ways of doing a cigar. There's the it's kind of like an accordion. The accordion, how it has those little white things that are kind of bent.
Yeah.
So you're either bending it like that, where the filler leaves go into a hand where they're all bent like that, or there's another method called the tubulero method, and that's what Cubans use. So tubulero method is kind of rolled into a round tube, almost like you're making a cone when you're rolling marijuana. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer out there. I do not smoke marijuana, but
it's legal. You could
now. You can, but anyways,
I'm not a huge
point
fan of
I'm trying to make is it's a
not part of the
tubular
brand.
style. Yes. So that's how the filler leaves go inside the middle, and then the binder leaf holds all that together. Once that's rolled, it goes into a mold that holds the actual tobacco leaf there, and then it gets put into a press. And the press holds these leaves together for about an hour and a half, sometimes even less, depending on how busy they are. And then what happens is there's a person that will take the cigars out of the mold and install the wrapper leaf, and that's how that goes onto the actual wrapper leaf in the sense of that. So,
and are these all
these
done
are
by
all
hand?
hand rolled, and the other thing is this is a long filler. So what I mean by long filler is that the tobacco leaf is from here to here is all one piece. Okay. So there is one on
guys,
the far...
this is significant because I'll explain why the long filler as opposed to a short filler. Health wise too, believe it or not, the long filler, there's no carcinogen. Believe it or not, there was studies done. If you're smoking long filler, you can have up to 4 cigars a day, apparently, without any ill effects. There was a study done. Now, I'm not recommending you smoke 4 cigars a day, but they were trying to because there's always a correlation trying to figure out between cigar smoking and cancer. Because the difference is they're trying to say it's very similar to cigarettes. It's not the same as cigarettes. Cigarettes are all chemicals, and but they were saying, but if you're smoking the long filler, it is health benefit. It's leaves. It's not.
It's a tobacco leaf.
It's a tobacco leaf.
There's no additives.
Whereas a short filler,
well, in cigarette tobacco, there's a lot that's added to it. Like, they've changed it now, but cigarettes back in the day, when you lit a cigarette, you didn't actually have to smoke it. It would burn out by itself. And what happened was the government imposed laws saying that that can't happen anymore because people were burning couches and dying.
Right. So they had to add chemicals. And there's a second company, I think it was, I don't know if it was Marlboro, it was a second company. So I was reading this article in Men's Health and how the tobacco industry changed. And cigars are still old school, right? Yes. So the longer the leaf, that's what I'm saying. Like you can't really group them together. And I forget which company it was. If you read the articles in Men's Health, there was one company that came in. They added a drug to it, and it was called enable to freebase your cigarettes. Yeah. So the cigarette, if you hold it at this point, if you don't smoke on it, it would burn on its own, so you're not going to burn down your house. Now they added this additive in which when you're smoking it, the nicotine hits you instantaneously. And it hits your bloodstream so fast, so you got a high so quick. So the idea was you get addicted to it quicker. Right. And all the other drug companies or cigarette companies went and they lobbied against it. And they're like, no, there's nothing wrong. As soon as that law passed that it was okay to freebase the cigarettes, they all started adding it to their cigarettes, and which made it more highly, highly, highly addictive. These cigarettes back 100 years ago weren't this addictive. Yeah. They were nowhere near. There was more of a tobacco. They were closer to cigars than they were to cigarettes. If you grab a cigarette, if you see the cigarettes today, there is nothing natural about those cigarettes. Yeah. And now they've added other. So that's also led to the epidemic for cigarette smoke. So the study was coming out and saying, well, what's the correlation? And they haven't found a direct correlation between long leaf cigars and cigarettes.
So I was going to say, that's why like even in shows like back in the 1960s, 50s, you'd see, for example, like a show like Mad Men, a cigarette was like a regular thing occurrence.
Doctors used to prescribe it to people that had like bronchitis and stuff.
No way.
Yeah. So they would have cigarettes were used. They're thinking like, oh yeah, because it'll help your lungs.
Yeah.
But again, it didn't. but obviously the drug companies are and cigarette companies are just back then they didn't lead the cigarettes. But the carcinogens started to add in more recent cigarettes. So if you ever find a cigarette from the turn of like the early 19th century, as you do to today, they look nothing alike.
Oh no! And actually, they probably don't even burn the same way.
No,
it would be totally different. Like I remember me as a kid, we had family and friends that would come over, and they used to smoke.
Oh yeah, our house was filled with smoke.
We never smoked, and all of a sudden the people, and then it's like, hey, it's like, that's gone. And then I remember going to the U.S. on a vacation once, and I was in some southern state, and I was at I was at Burger King and McDonald's, and someone was smoking. I go, hey, who's smoking? I noticed it right away. Yeah. But in some of the southern states, they still were allowing it.
Well, two things is like, did you know that almost 80% of the people that develop lung cancer never smoked in their life?
No way.
I never smoked one bit.
Never smoked. They don't smoke.
What about secondhand smoke?
My aunt died from lung cancer, and she didn't smoke. That's a weird stat, right? Second thing is another story. In the States, it wasn't even that long ago when Natalie was pregnant with Mila. So Mila's going to be 15 this July. And we went to go watch a UFC fight, and she's 8 months pregnant. We're in Troy, Michigan. And they're like, do you want smoking or non-smoking? And Natalie's like, popping out here. She's like, what do you think? So she literally sat us in the non-section smoking section, and it was like elevated, and right in front of us everyone was smoking. And it was like, and there's no like windows or ventilation, and we're talking 15 years ago. Things have changed dramatically in the last decade, if not so anyway, these are things that the young kids may not understand. Like, we used to go to bars, so I used to get burn marks all over my shirts, like cigarettes. People would bump into you with cigarettes. They were smoking everywhere. I used to come in. My mom thought we were like, my mom knew we weren't smokers. We didn't smoke. I'd smoke a cigar.
When you're smelling.
Oh, she's like, oh my God, you guys reek. We're like, we know. It was in our hair. It was in our clothes. It was. You couldn't go anywhere without smoking, like without smelling like smoke, like at young ages. So, although we did have fake IDs and we shouldn't have been going to those bars, but that's a different story.
Like a bad boy.
Yeah.
So what changed? I mean, like now, like everything.
Well, they started banning cigarettes. So I remember the first thing was they were changing. Remember the Tim Hortons and stuff. They remember the people used to go to the coffee shops and they started banning cigarettes. They're like, what are we going to do? People are just going to go to a coffee shop to drink coffee. We're like, yeah. Because what was happening was people would go buy their coffee and they'd sit and they'd smoke. You'd walk into a coffee time. time filled with smoke. That's it. People literally go, and McDonald's was the same way, but the coffee shops is huge, and they started banning them from the coffee shops, and then they started barring them. They were still allowed to smoke in. I still remember you could smoke in airplanes. There was a smoking and smoking section. You might as well have a urinating and non-urinating part of a pool. It's going to get to you no matter what. It's going to hit you, right?
You're in an airplane.
You're in a tube for crying out loud,
and it's the same recirculated air. So it doesn't matter if you're at the back of the plane.
So anyway, my point is things have changed a lot. All right, talk to us another option in case you don't want to. Again, we're trying to help you guys out in case you're looking for a significant other, or maybe you want to try smoking cigars and you want something that is in my opinion, non-addictive. Anything's addictive if you do. You can get addicted to Coke for crying out loud. Coca-Cola, not cocaine, obviously. What's the next one you have on the docket?
Let me just finish a little bit. So this is a Nicaraguan Puro. So it has Nicaraguan wrapper, binder, and filler. So when they say a cigar is a Puro, it means all of the production of that tobacco for that cigar is from the same region. Okay, so it's good to know that. The other one we're looking at next to it it's called Joya de Nicaragua.
And that's what I'm smoking.
That's what I'm smoking, and that's the Clásico Medallo Siglo. Yeah. So this is another Nicaraguan cigar. Joya de Nicaragua is actually the oldest Nicaraguan cigar manufacturer. They're the oldest. They've their brand. This brand used to be the recognized brand that U.S. presidents used to hand out at state functions, any type of presidential meetings or any gatherings. This was the cigar they handed out to the representatives for the U.S. government.
Now, is this one all made? So with cigars as well, you can have a wrapper. Remember, the outside of the cigar is called the wrapper. You can have a wrapper from a different country and then have the filler, which is the tube, like the actual leaves inside could be a totally different one. Are these all Nicaraguans and from the same one? And how does a Nicaraguan cigar or the conditions compare to like a Cuban?
So Cubans use all their puros as well. So they use wrappers all from Cuba. That's just a standard. Cuban cigars do not come with. It's always a puro. So they don't use wrappers from any other country. You'll find companies from the Dominican, Nicaragua, Honduras. They all kind of do blending, and they find that sometimes they blend the cigar with different wrappers. So what happens is Cubans will never have that. It's always from Cuba. There are different regions in Cuba. So the biggest growing region in Cuba is the Pinar del Rio region, which is the northern part of the island. That's actually where all the good tobacco is grown, and they have factories throughout the whole island. The concern with Cuban cigars that people have done over the last years, and it's been going on for about 15. I'm going to say, just say the 2000s actually, just about 2002, is the actual manufacturing, the quality of the cigar you're getting. Yeah. There's been a lot of draw issues with it. The other issue is Cuban cigars. They say they're not as strong as they used to be, and some of that has to. There's factors to it.
But there's also overproduction.
Yes, it's massively produced. Their production is they're still pumping out some ridiculous amount of cigars every year. But the other thing is they don't put any nutrients back in the soil. So because production's so high, they don't have farmers' fields that sit through a growing season so the nutrients goes back into the soil. Right. As soon as the tobacco plants are cultivated, they turn the soil and plant right away. So there's no rest period. So that's going to make the nutrients in the soil, and they don't put nutrients back. So they don't put potash, they don't put any type of nutrients back into the soil. And what happens is the quality of the tobacco plant you get every year is not the same.
That's interesting.
The other thing is they've actually gone to a tobacco plant seed, which lasts longer. It actually in the growing process. It makes it to the final production, so the plant will be there's no loss to any what's called blue mold. So blue mold exists in sometimes in some of the tobacco fields where it actually devastates some of the crop. So you don't get 100% yield every year. So what happens is they went to this type of seed so that doesn't happen anymore. But what's happened is that tobacco plant, that leaf that you get now, is not as rich in oils as what they used to get.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
And like I know personally because I've seen it, but when you take the bottom row of a cigar out of the bottom row, most Cubans have like a white backing, right? We don't see that anymore because it's not there. We get the old plain package boxes. But when you I remember pulling out an actual cigar. It was a Boulevard Bellicoso Fino. When I pulled that cigar out, there was a brown stain on that white paper in the box. That's the oils that were coming out of that cigar. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, it's like you just had a nice ribeye Wagyu steak that like it's like I can't wait to eat it. That's what my reaction was to that. So that's kind of something that's happened out there, right? Now, moving on to the next one. So the next one over, there's actually another one next to it. It's actually called the Casa Magna, Connecticut.
You got to talk to the mic so you're talking over. Yeah.
The Casa Magna, Connecticut. So the Casa Magna, Connecticut has a little bit of a lighter shade. Connecticut shades do really well. A lot of companies use Connecticut shade wrappers. The reason they use it is it gives it a very distinct taste, not overpowering. The other thing is a lot of companies have always used this because it's kind of a go-to wrapper, shade wrapper they like. It does change the way the cigar tastes. Just as an example, I'll share that most Dominican cigars that you buy all have most of them have a Connecticut shade wrapper. That's what they use. It's kind of like almost a Dominican industry standard. They use that, and it's that good. So people really enjoy it. Not to say that other wrappers. There's a lot of other wrappers that are really good. In the Nicaraguan,
you start burning your band.
Yeah,
I want to remove that band.
Nicaraguans use there's a wrapper called the San Andrea Mexican wrapper.
Yeah.
There's also another one. It's called a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, which is a little bit different. They use that as well. There's Ecuadorian wrappers that are used on a lot of cigars out there. One of my favorites is the Oliva V series.
Oliva's good. I like Oliva.
They have that Ecuadorian wrapper that's just velvet when you look at it.
All right, so we have to believe it or not, we have to start wrapping. We're getting past the time we actually submitted. But there's a fourth cigar here. You have a question before that one?
Well, I'm gonna let you go, and I want to do some rapid fire.
Yeah. Okay. So and the fourth cigar, and then after the fourth cigar, just can you give us roughly price points as well, so people know what to look for? So the last cigar you have on here.
So the last cigar is a cigar from the Garcia family, which is the My Father cigar brand.
One of my favorite cigars.
Everyone knows that brand. It's
well, maybe not everybody, but I think My Father. When I went to my buddy Strauss's wedding, I didn't know his dad was into cigars. He pulls out a box of My Father's. I'm like, you got my favorite cigars.
Yeah,
it's a nice Toro. By the way, when he talks about Toros and Robustos, those are different sizes. Don't worry about those now. More worry about it's just the size, and they have torpedoes where it looks like a torpedo, and those are different types of cigars, but it's more of the leaves that stay the same for most of the time. But within certain companies, they'll have darker cigars. So if you have the brand name you like, talk with them to the cigar aficionado and seeing what does your guy like, or what do you like? Do you like the darker the wrapper is going to be a little bit hard,
usually a little bit heavier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. So on the last one we have here.
So the last one is it's called the My Father makes it's the Tobacco Baez. So this is a newer brand that we've brought into Canada. It's actually called a Cuban sandwich. And what I mean by that is that cigar is actually not long filler. It's two pieces.
Interesting.
So that cigar's got two pieces inside of it. But sometimes some of them have sometimes even three or even four pieces. But this is a cigar that's made from My Father tobacco that they grow on their farms.
And where country are they in?
they're in Nicaragua, and they're also, it's still a good price point. This is a good price point for, like, if you smoke a lot, it's definitely something to consider, because the pricing on this retail, you're probably looking at about $15-16 retail. This cigar here that I'm smoking right now, the Liga F, is probably closer to $27-28.
And the one that owns smoking?
And that one there is that's actually a really good price point as well. You're probably looking at about $20 for Owen's cigar.
And then the other one over there?
The other one is similar to this one. It's probably about 27, 28. They're very similar in terms of pricing.
So believe it or not, guys, that's for people who don't smoke often. That's actually for a good quality cigar. That's a good price. Like we're not trying to break the bank here. Again, this is for, even for somebody who's a seasoned veteran. Like, I've moved out of smoking Cubans. I don't like, on occasion we'll smoke some good Cubans, and I like, the double white Churchills and things like that. Like, we'll get into, but that's also the ring gauge. So when buying cigars, there's certain things you have to pay attention to. Again, there's the color, there's the size, and there's the type, right? So Robustos means a little bit shorter. You can get some fatter ones. And then there's a ring gauge that matters as well. So there's lots of things that go into buying a cigar. But again, for rookies or somebody or you're buying for somebody else, you can't go wrong. Like, these are, most of these are like Maduro.
This is a Toro size.
Those are Toro size.
It's a Toro. So it's a 60 by about I'm going to say a 50, 56 ring gauge. Some are 60 for Toros. So a Cuban, just to give you an idea, a Cuban like this, you're probably looking at more like about $70.
Yeah.
And if it's a Cohiba, then forget it. Yeah. It's even more.
Again, you're talking over $100.
Yeah.
Some rapid fire you have for us?
Couple rapid fire ones. So, be quick. And there's a lot of guys who are listening, they're getting into cigars. Cigars are seen as like a very with the boys type of activity, right? It's a way for...
I am seeing women smoke a lot of
women
them too.
Yeah. It's a
cigar vixen.
Cigar vixen.
Oh no, she smokes a lot.
Yeah, it's like a very therapeutic thing to have, like, with the guys over, right? So, first and foremost, what are some of the things that guys and women as well should avoid so they don't look like an amateur when you might be around like a seasoned smoker? And I think kind of expanding on the etiquette. We start in the beginning, but like smoking, everything.
Perfect. So when you're looking at that, there's a couple of things, like in terms of cigar etiquette. I talked about cutting and lighting the cigar. When you're finished the cigar, cigars, you shouldn't puff through them. Like a cigar, like I said, a Toro, this should be at least an hour, 10 hour, 20 minutes.
Don't smoke as fast as I do.
Some people you kind of don't know how long, but you kind of have to try and follow how people are smoking around you, because I've heard of situations where a guy pulls out a nice Romeo and Juliet Churchill.
Ooh,
okay,
so
that's a 7-inch by 49 ring gauge. That should be an hour and a half. This guy plowed through it in 45 minutes.
What?
Damn.
45 minutes, and then he's sitting, and he doesn't even know that, but he's sitting next to a master roller from La Aurora at a cigar store. And then what happens is the guy goes, "Oh, I really enjoyed that cigar. It's beautiful." And that roller is saying, "You know what? I know it. Like, I even know that, but if someone said, I really like that cigar, and you plowed through it in 45 minutes and it should take you an hour and a half, you're just telling that person, like, he doesn't really know what he's doing." Yeah. And sometimes, like, following what other people's leads are while they're socializing really helps. And you know what? There's a lot of, you can make a lot of connections through this in terms of smoking cigars. Yeah. Now, we don't have lounges here, so it's very hard. But if you can do it socially with friends, definitely pick up on that. And one more thing that I really would like to see people like pay attention to: when you enjoy a cigar and you're putting it down when you're done, do not butt it out like a cigarette.
Like tapping it on.
No, you let it die.
You push it down and you're butting it out like a cigarette.
You don't do that.
You don't do that. You know what? You've enjoyed that cigar. Let it, lie it down on the ashtray.
Let it burn.
And let it burn out. Let it
So I was naturally. With Natalie and I were in Punta Cana, and this one guy's like, and the cigar smoker we're talking to, and I learned that too. You don't put it, and he goes, and he put it the best way. He goes, "You enjoyed it, let it die with dignity."
Yes, absolutely.
That's class.
He was. I've always remembered. He goes, "You let it die with dignity. It's not a cigarette. It's not something. It's not like No offense. Not like a hooker on the side where you just got to butter out and go into the next thing. You've enjoyed it. It's a good time. Let it die with dignity. Yeah. And the other thing is, Paulo's brought up before off camera, was saying cigars are meant to be smoked in one sitting. They're not supposed to be put them out like don't get me wrong, when we're smoking cigars, a lot of times you can relight the cigar while you're smoking, because sometimes it'll burn out if you're enjoying it and taking your time. That's fine, and that'll continue the flavor throughout the cigar. What you don't want to do is put a cigar down and say, I'll have it tomorrow. Or I'll have it. Oh my God. First of all, it tastes disgusting. It's disgusting. And the second thing is, again, going back to the tradition of the cigar and the dignity of the cigar, you're not keeping the integrity of the cigar by doing that. And you're bringing in those carcinogens. It's also getting dried out, and it's caught that your throat will start to hurt. So there's a psychological aspect to it and a reverence for it. You have to give the dignity of the cigar. But the second thing is mostly for the taste and for your health.
Yeah, it's safe to say it's an art to smoke a cigar. It's definitely an art form, right? Next thing is that when we were talking about cigar and cigarettes, big difference there. And there's many different flavors and different Cubans and all the other ones you mentioned. How do you appreciate the cigar when you're smoking it? From let's say smoking it, give us like the 1, 2, 3, the basics of smoking the cigar, so you actually feel and taste it and actually enjoy it, as apart from just like pulling it, blowing it, and then calling it a day and having the example of the 45-minute gentleman that you're speaking about.
So when I smoke a cigar, I always try to get the flavor notes that come from it. And then also, like, I'm just where I am, my whereabouts, where I'm enjoying it with, my environment. You know, I mean, I've never been a guy that would be in my garage shaking like a leaf because I have to smoke a cigar on a Saturday night. Yeah, you're trying to get it
enjoyable.
In. Yeah. You're getting it in. We
have done it.
Yeah, we have. We have. But you know what? I'll be honest. I've made changes to my garage.
Oh, your garage is it's ventilated, it's heated, it's legit. It's legit.
Like a man cave in there,
yeah.
Well, he was inviting me over the other day. I had to play hockey last week. He goes, want to come over for a cigar? I'm like, he asked me like right before. I'm like, I would have canceled hockey, but I'm the goalie. I can't cancel hockey.
They need me. But what I'm always doing is I'm always chasing that moment to see, can I capture a moment like that I had when I smoked this cigar the first time, that I really enjoyed it. Can I capture that, or can I even surpass it? Make it a moment that's even better than what I had before. And you know what? I'll be honest. I'm not going to lie to you. I was in the Dominican 2 summers ago. I was there, and it was me and my wife. My son didn't want to come, so I said, that's fine. We'll enjoy it ourselves. I had no smoking buddies. I was there alone. But you know what? I enjoyed that cigar. And I even made a little video that I sent to my smoking buddies. Yeah. And it was this thing about, I don't know if you ever watch on Twitter, Arnold Schwarzenegger does some tweets about different things, and he was talking about smoking a cigar. He goes, oh, I can smoke. He goes, what are you smoking? He goes, I'm smoking in my house. I go, I don't have to worry about anyone telling me I can't smoke and this and that. And he was smoking. So I did a little skit with that, and I said, what are you guys smoking? Look what I'm smoking. And I posted it to my buddies, right? They loved it. Yeah. But I had such an enjoyable moment. And you know what? I guess you guys probably sometimes been on a beach, but I find on a beach with the sun, the little bit of a breeze off the water, and nice. It was hot. It was beautiful.
Every time I go away,
I love
vacation, I bring like 20 cigars with me. And I mostly go upstairs in the room. I smoke like it's quiet. It's in my shorts. And I'm having a cigar. So I'm also part of this KCC, the KCC Cigar Club, right? So Kleinberg. And we always share cigars, like exotic cigars. We do that. There's hundreds of people on this group chat. And we're on WhatsApp. We're like, what are you doing? What are you drinking with it? It's like it's an environment. It's not it's a community. Yes, exactly. It's a community. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up.
Yes. No, this has been great. Yeah. It's been a great exercise on learning.
We're actually past our time. We were only supposed to be doing this for half hour. We've been like past almost 50 minutes here, I think, right, Isaac? Where are we at?
Oh, we're done. Yeah. So listen, I just say I hope you guys can come out to Dave's event, Father's Day.
Those are invited.
Whoever's invited, please.
I can't have 1,000 people in my backyard. It just doesn't work that way.
If anyone has any questions, please reach out to Dave. I'm he'll give my contact.
We'll put your information in the
yeah,
description. Yeah, don't worry
absolutely,
about
it. Absolutely, yeah. I don't mind answering questions. This is my passion. This is what I really like enjoying.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's part of my passion too. So I blame Paulo for that, for all the money he spent in cigars. But no, honestly, Paulo, thank you again for coming. And you're like, so again, what we do is Paulo does this something. If you guys wanted to hire him as well, what he does for my event, we have a speaker here and we have the cigars here. I buy the cigars. I provide it for the dads that are in my group, that are my clients, and we have it catered, and I bring alcohol and all that stuff. But what I do is I bring Paulo here. What he does, we pick a cigar for the year to do for these guys, and he introduces them and he talks about the cigar and the history of it, and it's about 15-20 minutes spiel, and you can smoke, like, then there's money in them for you to try, but he's got so much knowledge about how to do it. If you're a beginner and want to start it, he can actually help you there too. So for one time, like, well, when we first started, you did a 2-hour talk on them. Like, listen, Paulo can talk. If you want him to talk for 4 hours, he can talk 4 hours about cigars. If you want to talk to 10-15 minutes, it's a little bit harder, but he can do it. But again, if you wanted to reach out to me or Paulo, and we'd love to be able to see if we can help you along the way. If you want to start smoking cigars, some doctors, I don't always agree with them, say that you can't do, you're not supposed to smoke cigars. I push back a little bit because I think it's something that relaxes us, and and in the summer, we're not smoking every single day. It's not a need. It's one of those things that there's a lot of misconceptions about smoking cigars. It's not something I need to do every single day, and it's like, but it's nice when you have them.
Yeah, it makes for good conversation too.
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
You have them.
Yeah. Thanks, Paulo, for
nice
coming.
meeting you, Owen. I appreciate
Likewise,
it.
Paulo. It's been great doing a podcast with you, and I'll definitely see you on Father's Day.
All right, we'll see you then.
Definitely smoke another one.
Yeah,
Of course.
all right.
Thanks, everybody. That's DC Talks. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We'll have Paulo's information in the description to find him to purchase some cigars. You saw the assortment here we got. And
Isaac's going to do a close-up on this. Would you maybe do some B-roll while we're doing this and thing on the background? So
yes,
if you're listening to this on audio, I suggest you watch this on the YouTube channel because you'll get more of the visuals, which Paulo was talking about, and you actually get to see the cigars and see the different types of cigars and how it looks in stores. Because if you just go to a store, you won't really notice. They will allow you to have some of the bands on there, while some of the stores will only one of the cigars, but you really don't see a lot of them. So yeah.
It's been great, Paulo. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the cigar too.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye, everybody. See you next week.